I am 30 years old. I have been working since I was 18, which makes it now 12 years of work at Charlin. I have renovated houses, built a building, and done many other things. The man is worn out, but he still wants to dream. The health is not perfect, but the mind is. So, I told myself that dreams are meant to be achieved. And now, I could leave without regret. I have gone through so many vehicles, each as different as the next. The first, a Renault Clio 2 Yellow, La Poste. Then, my first sports car, an MGTF with right-hand drive. And then followed 5 BMWs. Then an RX-8, then some Porsches, notably a Cayenne and a Boxster. And finally a Lotus, then something completely different, the Humvee, and little Italians like Maserati. The Jeep, the Beetle, the Audi R8, the Backhoes. In short, it's more than 40 vehicles that I've owned today. Now, it's time for me to fulfill my dream. But for that, I need a bit more money.
And what else? More? Gaia the cars? What? Oh, nice. Yeah, I have a little idea in mind. What about your idea? My dream, you know. I found a cheap one there. That's a good investment. Ouch, still. We're going home. No. You're still pulling my leg. It's not bad. It's expensive, though. Actually, that's nice. With the leave. Ah, and then the good one who... It's fine. I sold the Porsche. I sold the Tesla. We're not very far off. What? At some point you have to see when we take action.
Yeah, did you see? Hello, I have an idea in mind here. Yeah, well, yes, again. I want to see with you if it was possible to do it. A little shout to the consumer for an additional purchase for a car. Yeah, I sold the Tesla and the Porsche. It was good. Yeah, well, I would need about 15,000 to do Ruby Shale. What documents are needed to do the simulation? Okay, listen, I'll send you that and you give a little feedback by email. Perfect. Thank you. Have a good day. everyone, I hope you're doing well. So today is a big moment for me, a major video in terms of editing, but especially in terms of emotion, because that's it, she's finally home. So as you could see at the beginning of the video, and for all those who have been following me for many years now, you know that this was my dream. So my perfect dream would have been in yellow. Well, that's why I also made the tiles yellow, but you know, we're in the second-hand market. We're also dealing with very expensive budgets where, unfortunately, you have to know how to make concessions, but it's okay. Honestly, this is a concession I'm willing to make gladly. Friends, it's official. I have finally realized my dream. Well, I couldn't park this car in the old garage. As you can imagine, I can't park it in the garage over there because it's too wide. Today it requires some work over there, so well, it's necessary. We had to redo this little garage a bit to accommodate the new one. It's a Ferrari F430 with only 27,000 kilometers, so it's a Ferrari F430 with quite a few options that I will tell you all about right away. I'll give you a little presentation. Quickly, there are also some small problems. I'll tell you how much I paid for it, how much it costs on the market, what I will have to do, what I will do to it, what options it has, what options I would have liked to have but didn't get. And of course, the big question everyone will ask is how I was able to afford it. So friends, what you need to know is that I've had my driver's license for 12 years, and for 11 years I've been changing cars, regularly, always progressing, always with the thought in the back of my mind of one day being able to afford it. And still, I'm telling you little stories because originally, when I started my automotive journey, my dream wasn't this one. It was the 360 Modena, which at the time cost the same as the F430 does today. But my dreams changed for the simple reason that the Modena, in my opinion, personally has aged very poorly, at least on the entire front end. And so my dream shifted from a 360 Modena to an F430, but in terms of price evolution, it hasn't changed because the Modena has dropped in price and is starting to rise again, and the F430 has also dropped and is starting to rise. But at the time when I had my dreams, a Modena cost 100,000, and now that I dream of an F430 costs 100,000. So in terms of budget, it hasn't changed, but in terms of design, it has evolved well. So I was a fan of Porsche. From the beginning, Porsche was still more accessible, less expensive to maintain, etc. But I always dreamed of having that in the garage. I really thought I would go through the 348 stage. I'll show you right away a little illustration image of a car that I love, which is quite old. We're in the 90s with lines that are, for me, timeless and classic. But only this car, which was affordable a few years ago, is no longer so today. Since when it was worth 50,000 euros, today we're looking at budgets of 70 to 75,000 euros, which in my opinion is enormous for this type of car. So as a result, I refocused on this car. So group, a series of circumstances. What you need to know is that a month ago, if you had told me I had this in the garage today, I would never have believed it. In fact, I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. What triggered everything? I had my Porsche 997 in the garage. I had a Tesla that was here. And then we went on a classic outing with friends. And then a friend, Thierry, who has an F430, joins us. I spend 2 days next to an F430, knowing that it's been my dream for many years now. So it bothers me, it bothers me, it bothers me. We do all the Le Mans, etc. And then I tell myself it's not possible. I want to go see Ferrari. I want to test a Ferrari. I want to experience a Ferrari. And so I told myself, okay, F430, we're between 100 and 120,000 euros. It's really too expensive. I'm going to try to get myself a famous 348, even at 70,000. So I set out with the idea of selling the Tesla, and I say to myself, well, listen, I'll put the Porsche up for sale. So I sold the Tesla for reasons you could see in the previous video, and I say to myself, well, I'll put my 911 up for sale, and if it sells, I would tell myself it's a sign of destiny, and I give in and buy a Ferrari. That's how I convince myself. I put my Porsche up for sale, first listing, not a single inquiry, total relisting, not a single inquiry. I tell myself, well, it's not a big deal, it's not the right time. There you go, fatalistic, it's not the right time. I keep my Porsche, I keep the money from the Tesla, and I buy another car to continue progressing. Well, that's how it goes. And then, as you could see at the beginning of the video, I go on Le Bon Coin. I browse like I do almost every evening, and I go for it boldly. I send an email to a dealership that was selling an F430, and I tell them, here, I would like to buy your F430. I have a Porsche 997. I send them the file asking how much they would take it back for to buy the F430. And there I was putting it up for sale. My Porsche, 50,000 euros on Le Bon Coin. And then the dealership tells me they'll take it back, 49,000 in my head without a second thought. It goes around. I tell myself, okay, honestly, for 1,000 euros, I won't bother. I'll have it taken back by the dealership and buy myself an F430. but I was a little short on cash, but we'll get to that later. From there, we head out with Marion, take the Porsche, and go see. And unfortunately, I come across a very worn-out F430. A nice sausage, well, you know, a good front and back with flames on the barbecue. Repainted all over, really disappointing. I go home feeling jaded, disgusted. I didn't even know you could find sausages like that. I had 100,000 euros. I tell myself no, but actually 100,000 euros is the bottom of the barrel. Forget it. I need to put at least 120,000. It's impossible. There you go. I'm only going to find sausages like that. So I'm really a bit disgusted, etc. I contact another garage again. I tell myself, come on, let's persevere. Same thing. He takes it back for 49,000, but the guy's a bit reluctant. Unfortunately, it's not a legend. Porsche, they made 3 997s. Out of the 3 997s, all 3 engines blew up. So the guys, well, they were ready to take it back because it had a reliable engine. But really, they weren't keen. They had promised themselves never to do it again. And then I update the ad. Bang. The car sells immediately. I think to myself, maybe it's a sign. But you can imagine that even with the sale of the Porsche and the sale of the Tesla, there was still a bit of money missing. This one was listed at 110,000 euros. So, as you could also see, I call my banker and I ask if it's possible to take out a consumer loan to come. At Arfmanjan, what is missing from the sale of the Porsche and the Tesla to be able to fulfill my dream. So why did I speed things up a bit? Because I could have also waited to save up, etc. The problem is that last year when I was ready to go for it using the same method by taking out a loan, well, this car was, let's say, initially priced at $70,000, and the bulk of the listings were at $95,000. Today, the lowest price is $97,000, wow, and the bulk of the listings are at $120,000. The car has increased by around 20,000 euros since 2022. So, if you look at the current valuations, the forecasts for the year 2023 are 17,000 euros. So you can imagine, today it's worth 120, tomorrow it costs 137. Today I'm short 15,000 euros to buy it. Tomorrow I'll be short more than 30,000 euros to buy it. So I thought to myself, maybe if I really want to fulfill my dream one day, I have to go for it, I have to take the plunge. So as a result, I start the process with the banker, we do a credit simulation, and it's approved. And now all the indicators are green. The Tesla sold, the 997 sold, the loan approved. I think to myself, well, bingo. Moreover, my calculations are very simple. I just told you. I'm going to borrow 15,000 euros from the bank. The car will bring me 17,000 next year. In fact, in 1 year, just the increase in the car's value pays it off and makes me money from my loan. So I tell myself it's not a big deal. My loan is over 5 years. In 5 years, the car might have gained 50,000 euros. So even my 2,800 euros of interest on my 15,000 euro loan, in fact, they are paid off, times 10. So I tell myself it's not a big deal. I take the loan and fulfill my dream. So here I am with the envelope of 100,000 euros to find my little gem. I call back. The company Le Garage in Paris, which had this one, was a bit hesitant to take me. My 987, I tell him it's fine, it's sold, I have the money. Can I come to see it? It had 27,000 kilometers second. It had 2 owners. So we go to see it, and there, it's love at first sight. The car is magnificent, it's perfect. 27,040 kilometers on the odometer. Everything is impeccable. The bodywork is impeccable. The engine is impeccable. And above all, it is well equipped. Ideally, I would have loved to have a yellow one. There weren't any on the market. In a second ideal scenario, I would have preferred a red one. Except what you need to know is that to have a red color, you need to add about 15,000 euros to the market price. I'll give you an example. This one was at 110,000. I bought it for 100,000. I'll explain everything to you why. But it was listed at 110,000. If I want the same one in red for 110,000 euros, it's very simple. The car, instead of having 27,000 kilometers, has 75,000, 80,000. Instead of having all the options I have, it doesn't have any, but it's red. I prefer to choose sobriety because in black I find it very understated. It is very discreet, and I have a car that will appreciate greatly, which has very low mileage, and especially where I have a very low risk of breakdowns because the car is new. Once again, we are in another sphere. Here we are truly in the Ferrari sphere. It's a sphere that used to scare me a lot because I've already had Maseratis. I know the price of Ferrari Maserati parts. Even if the mechanics are still just mechanics, it's not more complicated than elsewhere. The parts, however, are truly in another sphere. We are no longer in the same financial sphere at all. That's why it's better to spend 10,000 euros more and have fewer kilometers and fewer breakdowns than to be stingy and buy one with extremely high mileage that will cost you a fortune. Because even if you do the mechanics yourself, it is very, very, very expensive. So friends, now after the story I told you, we're going to move on to how I ended up giving in. We're going to talk a little about the car, why I saved 10,000 euros on it, and what I have to do. And what options are there on it already? We have a black color, a shade called Nero. So it's a black that is very, very, very sparkly inside. We find seats that we will call Daytona finish. Originally, the seats on an F430 are relatively smooth. We don't have all these structures on the seat. This is simply an option. Daytona seat, so it's relatively expensive as an option when you have it. It's relatively rare on the F430, and I find it just magnificent. So once again, in an ideal scenario, if I had wished black, I would have loved to have the beige leather interior. But once again, if you have the money, you buy it new and you'll have the color you want. Second hand, you take what's available on the market, depending on your budget. But in any case, there you go. It's impeccable. So inside, you can see I have the interior carbon pack. So here you have the entire central console in carbon. You have the air vents here that are in carbon with the small plaque. Ferrari, multiple times Formula One world champion. We have the steering wheel. Oops, there's a little fly coming to hang out here. Oh no. We have the small steering wheel. Same, it's new, not a scratch, nothing. The leather inside is all new. So the only flaw with Ferraris here, we have it a little bit. Ferrari, Maserati, unfortunately the buttons are crap. There's no other word. That is to say, all the plastics in Ferrari, Maserati over time become sticky. So here, these buttons have been redone. But here, we see the warning and parking buttons that are sticky. So these are the little things that I am going to redo. Also, we have the window lift buttons that are sticky. There you go. So the paradox is that the best way to redo them is by buying the buttons on AliExpress. It costs $30 and you change your buttons. There you go. It's a paradox to buy AliExpress parts for a Ferrari, but actually it's the only way to do it. Otherwise, you would have a company redo the same thing for you, screen printing them, and it's 1,000 to 1,500 euros for all the buttons. Well, knowing that the buttons are made in China, AliExpress is in China, well, you know what? For 28 euros, I'll keep the original buttons and use the Chinese buttons. That'll suit me just fine. On top of that, I would have loved to have carbon fiber paddles. Unfortunately, they don't exist, so maybe that's a modification I'll make. Later on, we'll see about that. We have all the leather extended over the ceiling, the sun visors, the entire engine compartment here. Well, the compartment, the finish that leads to the engine compartment, all in finish. Leather. It's extremely beautiful, and we have a magnificent view of the Ferrari V8 engine, which is right there, Cathedral Mech. And here we have the little button that brings a smile every time you turn it, and we have the snow mode. Well, they make a little sense of it. I must admit that I would never take it out in the snow. We have the sport and race modes, and you see that I drive in race because that's where the Ferrari magic truly reveals itself. But I still have a hard time realizing that it's in the garage. I have an even harder time realizing that it's mine, and I still drive it like an old man. Because I feel like it was such a dream for me that I feel like I'm driving a car that doesn't belong to me. It's very strange. As a result, I take almost too much care of it. I don't dare to accelerate, etc. So it's weird, but it's going to take me a little time to tell myself, okay, it's mine, it's in my garage. In any case, after 12 years of dreaming, it has finally arrived, and I'm like a kid. Here it is. I think you're really going to see it for a long time on the channel. That's it. Yes. Well, I say that every time it's true, but here I've reached my goal. My first dream was a 997. I achieved it. I would say quite quickly, because also cars have aspects that I got a good deal, etc. And it stayed there. I relatively quickly had cars between 30,000 and 40,000 euros, and a 997 was 50,000 euros. So 10,000 euros can be saved up faster than 50,000. The F430 was 100,000 to 120,000 euros, so it was still double. I never put all the same risk in the same basket. That is to say, I had about 30 cars, and I always divided the risk, meaning that if I made a mistake on one car, well, the money I lost wasn't huge. It was inconceivable for me to sell all my cars and buy just one car, putting all the risk in a single vehicle, because it's been 12 years that I've been saving, 12 years that I've been working to afford my dream. And you see, the first one I went to see was a lemon. Imagine you end up with a well-disguised lemon. You lose 12 years of work, 100,000 euros. So for me, it was really impossible to play that strategy. So that's why today I still have my Ford F150, I still have my Westfield, my Megane, my R5 Alpine Turbo. So in the end, I could have bought it a year or two ago, but in a very risky way. And incidentally, it's a car that you won't drive daily. It really needs to remain a pleasure car. At least that's my point of view, and I absolutely needed another car alongside it. I couldn't just have that at home and say, yeah, I have a super Ferrari, I go shopping in a Ferrari, I take the kids to school in a Ferrari, and then that's it. For me, it really has to remain a dream. You open your garage, press that famous button, and go enjoy it. So let's say I achieved it in an intelligent way, and especially without putting myself in difficulty, or at the risk of losing my 12 years of worked to be able to reach this dream. And the dream in a Ferrari goes through the logo, through the prestige and the interior cabin, but above all, it goes through what's behind. So the Ferrari, it's that logo, it's its curves, it's especially that incredible rear, but a Ferrari is above all a mechanical cathedral. That's it. What you pay for when buying a Ferrari, that's it. A Ferrari is beautiful, you can hear it, there will be things to say, and you will see it later in the videos. It's not the best finished, it's not the most reliable, it's far from being the perfect car. But actually, what we are looking for when buying a Ferrari is the cockpit, the shapes, and the engine. Clearly, that's it. And that engine, when you start it, it's like a cathedral. I've had much bigger engines, especially in the Ford, but it's nothing compared to what this engine gives you. When you touch the accelerator pedal, it's simple. You feel like the engine revs up so quickly. You feel like the engine is in neutral and you accelerate like that. It's truly an incredible sensation. The engine draws in air at such a speed you can hear the airflow. Really, it's magical. It's magical, and that's what makes this car magical. And especially what goes with that are these magnificent exhausts. So already, the original exhausts, I find them magnificent. The shape is discreet, it's aggressive, it's beautiful, but the melody it provides. Here we have a car that is 100% original. The exhaust is original. You saw in the video how it sounds. It's incredible. The noise, it's pure, it's clean, it crackles. It sings, frankly, there's nothing to say. There you go. That was my dream. And today the best part is that in addition to having it, I will be able to work on it. And that is even more of a dream for me because I love driving my cars, but I think that in the end I prefer even more. It's maintaining and repairing them. So now let's move on a little to the second point. Why did I save 10,000 euros on these cars? So what you need to know about a Ferrari, as I mentioned just before, is that the parts cost a fortune and the labor cost double that. So I'm doing quite well because I am equipped, I have the skills, I have the knowledge to be able to repair this type of vehicle. So as a result, I will save on this portion of labor costs. But in this case, the garages that sell them to you, the car itself is guaranteed. 1 year. And well, to sell you the car, the garage from which I bought it is relatively serious. That is to say, generally it's guaranteed. Engine and gearbox 3 months. They guarantee their car 1 year, and it goes a little beyond the engine and gearbox. So they carry out preventive repairs precisely to avoid having to use their warranty. And what I simply negotiated, the fact of taking the car with all its small defects, doing everything myself, sending them proof of the invoices, parts, etc., that it be done to maintain the warranty. But they in turn could sell the car and recover cash more quickly and incidentally. Well, they also saved on parts and labor, so they were happy. I was happy by mutual agreement. We decided together that I would take the car at 100,000 kilometers and that I would handle it. Of the purchase, of the parts, labor and repairs, ensuring the car's reliability. And that, on the condition of providing proof that it was done, the warranty continues. So, what needed to be done on this car? Let's first talk about the repairs. So we have the front right wheel here, which certainly hit a pothole. So here, it looks very good. You see, it has nothing at all except for a very small chip here. The problem with this wheel is that it has a lot of lead. You can see here, there's lead here, there's lead there, there's a lot of lead. So a lot of lead means that the wheel is warped and lead is added to compensate for this warp. So clearly this rim needs to be redone, so that's going to be redone. I'm going to redo all 4 rims at Jantes West for the simple reason that I'm not going to keep them in grey like this. I'm going to change them to anthracite grey. So this will allow me to repair this rim and change the color to the one I wanted. Anthracite grey. So that's the first repair to be done within this famous 10,000 euros. Another thing, we have xenon bulbs. Here we have a bulb that illuminates less than the other. We have a xenon bulb that is faulty and therefore doesn't have the same lighting power as the other. So we have an imbalance in lighting. So I will need to change a xenon bulb. Now the rest will take place here. Of course, when you say GLB, you say new car dividend. So, of course, we're going to do it. The service is due. The service needs to be done. It only has 3,000 kilometers, 2,700 kilometers. But at Ferrari, a service. It's every year. So, as a result, the service is due and the service must be done. So, consequently, there will be a change of filters, change of fluids. So, that's the same. At Ferrari, it has a cost. The parts, the labor. Well, I committed to doing it. And as a result, it takes away part of those famous 10,000 euros. Now, the next step is still here. But this time, it's not a breakdown. It's not something to be done. It's about reliability. As I told you, they guarantee their car for 1 year and not 3 months, and especially its engine, gearbox, and accessories, unlike other garages where it's only engine and gearbox. On the Ferrari F430, there is a common issue. An issue that is very, very widespread and unfortunately spares no one. The exhaust manifolds break. There you have it. It's a fact. So they can crack, they can break, and when they crack, it's not too much of a problem. The manifold is cracked, and on the side of the road, you take it to the garage and repair it. However, when it breaks, what you need to know is that an engine at the exhaust releases exhaust, but it also draws in air. When the valves close, the piston is already starting its descent, which causes it to draw in air. When the manifold breaks, a small piece of the manifold can enter through the exhaust valves of an engine. And then it's engine failure. An engine worth 60,000 euros then. As a precaution, since this happens to 100% of Ferrari F430s, they reinforce the exhaust manifolds. He dismantles them, sends them to a company that reinforces them, retrieves them, and then reassembles them. And all of that involves labor and parts. It is very expensive. So that is also part of those famous 10,000 euros. Well, I got a great deal on it, and it will be coming soon in a video. It's that these exhaust manifolds, I found them in stainless steel. They cost 1,800 euros for the pair. I managed to get them second-hand. Condition, 9 for 650 euros. The pair delivered. 634 euros. Delivered exactly so. As a result, I make a nice saving because I don't pay for the labor. The part, I pay very little for it, and it allows me to make the car more reliable. And above all, to save on those famous 10,000 euros from the discount envelope we negotiated on the purchase of the car. So that's also part of a video that will be coming up. There will also be the replacement of brake fluids. Well, that suits me perfectly because when you talk about brakes, you talk about paint, and when you talk about brakes, you talk about rims. Since I'm going to change the rims to anthracite gray, I'd like to paint the brake calipers yellow. So when I do the brake calipers, or rather the bleeding, I will simply proceed with repainting the calipers to make them yellow. It's true that the garage is yellow and black because Ferrari originally isn't red, it's yellow. So as a result, I want to add some small yellow accents. We already have the yellow logos, we have the badge on the hood. So I would like to make a small reminder with the brake calipers and highlight everything with anthracite grey rims. So that's a little bit of it. Why did I save those famous 10,000 euros on the car? Well, many will say, yeah, but 10,000 euros is a lot for the few things there are to do. Yes, but it's Ferrari. That's why today I chose a black car with options and 27,000 kilometers over a red car without options with 90,000 kilometers. Because it's Ferrari and because the parts are extremely expensive. So I managed to get original parts, Ferrari in England, which allows me to buy them cheaper than at a dealership. Ferrari, and especially Ferrari dealerships, are quite reluctant to sell them to you as an individual. And that allows me to then do it in the garage and film everything for you. And of course to share my passion with you for doing mechanics, and especially my passion for doing mechanics on engines like this, which are, I think, the dream of all my channels. So today I'm fulfilling two dreams. The dream of having my dream car in my garage and the dream of finally being able to work on my Ferrari engine. So there you go. I think I have about the same pleasure working on it as driving it, so I'm going to be extremely happy. Friends, thank you all for watching this little video. Feel free to leave me a comment. If you like the car, if you like the color, and if you're happy to finally see a Ferrari on the channel, don't hesitate to let me know. If you own a Ferrari and are afraid of doing the mechanical work yourself, are these videos going to interest you or not? In the meantime, thank you all for your support. Thank you all for following the YouTube channel. And I am going to sleep with stars in my eyes because it's finally here. It's finally here, even though I still find it hard to believe. Friends, feel free to join us on social media, Facebook and Instagram. All the links are in the video description. And if you want to see mechanics on this Ferrari, make sure to subscribe and hit the little bell and you will receive a notification for the next videos. So, alright friends, see you very soon. Hello.